English 122, Day 20, Proposal Arguments, from Writing Arguments, pages 310 to 320. Proposal arguments are among the most common arguments you will encounter. They require a call to action that enjoins the audience to make a decision and then to act on it, to do something. For example, consider recent proposals to introduce a high-speed rail system to alleviate some of the traffic problems within Colorado freeways. There are two main kinds of proposal arguments: practical proposals and policy proposals. The main difference between the two types is the narrowness versus the breadth of concern. Practical proposals are narrow, logical, and concrete. They focus on the nuts and bolts of getting something done in a local area, here and now. Practical proposals propose an action to solve some kind of local or immediate problem. In your professional life, these are among your most important duties on the job. And these kinds of practical proposals are one of the most powerful ways to identify and solve problems. Policy proposals, on the other hand, occur when the writer offers a broad plan of action to solve major social, economic, or political problems affecting the common good. These policy proposals are an excellent way to practice the responsibilities of citizenship, which require the ability to understand complex issues and to weigh positive and negative consequences of policy choices. Proposal arguments generally have a three-part structure. First, there is a description of the problem, followed by the proposed solution, and finally a justification for the proposed solution. Let's look at those three elements of proposal arguments more in depth, but first remember that proposal arguments are among the most complex type of argument, or they are the highest order claim. In this way, the three parts of the proposal argument structure will be based in the other types of lower order claims that we've been discussing thus far. The first step is to describe the problem. Your audience may already be aware of the problem and may even have asked for solutions. If so, you do not need to develop the problem extensively or motivate the audience to solve it. However, in most cases, awakening your readers to the existence of a problem that may not have been well recognized before is the first step. You want to give the problem presence through anecdotes and statistics, or otherwise show readers how the problem affects people or otherwise has high stakes. Gain your readers' intellectual assent to the depth, range, and potential seriousness of the problem, and thereby motivate them to solve it. Develop the problem either in the introduction prior to the presentation of the proposal claim, or in the body of the paper as the first main reason justifying the proposal claim, depending how extensively you will be discussing the problem. Next, propose your solution. The art of proposal making is the art of the possible. Be sure to stress the feasibility of your solution, including the costs. Remember to include the specifics of your proposal, the actual step-by-step methods of implementing it. These may be instrumental in winning your audience's support and must be fully developed in the body of the argument. You want to show how your proposal will solve the problem either partially or wholly. But you may first need to convince your reader that the problem is solvable in the first place, not something intractably rooted in the way things are. Expect that some members of your audience will be skeptical about the ability of the proposal to solve the problem you are addressing. Listen to this point of view and argue that the problem is at least partially solvable. Finally, lay out a causal argument showing how one consequence will lead to another until your solution is effected. The third part of the proposal argument structure is the justification for the proposed solution. This portion of the argument will need extensive development in some cases and minimal development in others, depending on your particular problem and the rhetorical context of your proposal. If your audience already acknowledges the seriousness of the problem and has been waiting for the right solution to come along, then your argument will be successful so long as you can convince the audience that your solution will work and that it won't cost too much, that it has a feasible implementation. So you will need to develop persuasive reasons for enacting your proposal and determine who has the power to act on your proposal and apply arguments directly to that person's or agency's immediate interests. As with the other lower order claim types, you can use the Toulmin schema to analyze proposal arguments. In fact, the Toulmin schema is particularly useful for proposal arguments, which state that we should do a particular action because it addresses a serious problem. The Toulmin structure will help you find good reasons and link them to your audience's values. In the proposal argument structure, the claim is the proposed solution, the reason is related to the problem, and finally, the warrant is the assumption that the problem and the solution are related in some sort of causative way. Proposal arguments entail certain audience concerns that you wouldn't generally face with other types of arguments. The text refers to presence as an argument's ability to grip the reader's hearts and imaginations as well as their intellects. Persuading people to act on your proposal is particularly difficult, especially if the cost of acting is high and requires more than just intellectual force. Presence will give an argument an appeal to pathos, including effective use of details, provocative statistics, and compelling examples. Generally, you just want to show the seriousness of the problem or the consequences of not acting. Conservatism, on the other hand, is the difficulty of proving that something needs to be fixed, which is compounded by the fact that frequently the status quo appears to be working. Sometimes you can't argue that what we have is bad, but only that what we could have would be better. Your argument will often be based not on present evils, but on the evils of lost potential, which is often very difficult and abstract for the audience to grasp. The law of unintended consequences states that few major decisions lead neatly to their anticipated results without some surprises along the way. Potential writers of proposal arguments must predict consequences of their proposed actions, good and bad. Expect the audience to be skeptical when you claim that your proposal will lead to good consequences without having any bad consequences. Finally, you'll need to evaluate your consequences. Weigh the results according to your audience's values. Conduct a cost-benefit analysis that reduces all consequences to a single-scale comparison, like money. Let's look at developing proposal arguments now. One approach is to use different claim types to develop your proposal argument. Because they are a higher order claim type, proposal claims often depend for supporting reasons on claims about category, consequence, or resemblance. Let's look at those more closely. When attaching a claim of principle or category or an evaluative argument to a proposal argument, you will state that we should do a particular action or proposal because doing so would adhere to a good principle or because this action belongs to this category. On the other hand, attaching a resemblance argument to a proposal claim that would state that we should do a particular action or proposal because the action has been done successfully elsewhere or because the action is like another good action. Finally, attach a consequence argument or causal argument to your proposal claims by stating that we should do this particular action or proposal because the action will cause good consequences. But be sure to link these claims to the value system of the audience. When dealing with a categorical or evaluative argument, show how your proposed action follows a principle valued by your audience or belongs to a category valued by your audience. When conducting a causal chain, show how your proposed action will cause consequences that are valued by your audience. And finally, when conducting a resemblance argument, show how your proposed action has been done successfully elsewhere or is like another action that is valued by your audience. Another approach is to use the stock issues strategy to develop your proposal argument. In this case, you would ask yourself a series of questions based on the common, usual, and frequently repeated questions as to how the argument can be conducted. First of all, ask, is there really a problem here that needs to be solved? Convince the audience that a true problem exists. Next, ask, will the proposed solution really solve this problem? Demonstrate that the proposal will solve the problem. Ask, can the problem be solved more simply without disturbing the status quo? You'll need to show that only the proposed solution will solve the problem and that no minor tinkering with the status quo will be adequate. Ask, is the proposed solution really practical? Does it stand a chance of actually being enacted? Argue that your proposal is feasible and that the opposition is not too overwhelming. Finally, ask what will be the unforeseen or unintended consequences of the proposal. Try to find positive consequences to argue in favor of the proposal. Follow these strategies and you'll be sure to conduct effective proposal arguments.